You know, I'm always real and I like to share things that are going on in my life. So our church is doing a time of fasting and prayer, and I've really been praying for God to show me things. And I felt like things were coming back up from my childhood, and I could see where I felt some feelings now, and I was trying to understand because I've healed so much from my childhood. God showed me that so much of my life I have dealt with a spirit of guilt. Now, what that means is that I have allowed any time that something has to do with my health, needing something, whatever it is, when it's about me, I tend to feel guilty. That doesn't always sound like a bad thing, but it is when you suddenly have some chronic illnesses or you're out of commission for some reason and you are beating yourself up over and over because you feel guilty. It has also played a part in the shame that I feel, my self-worth, thinking that I am not worthy of having that problem. I'm not worthy of having the time to rest because I got to do everything for everybody else. Part of that whole codependent thing that I have healed from. But anyways, as I've stated, my parents unfortunately started taking prescription drugs back in a time where they weren't telling them that they were addictive, and they got hooked so easily without even knowing what was happening. And so for me, I saw this my whole life, my parents being sick, them withdrawing from the pills, and a lot of it had to do with them laying around and just feeling bad. And so for me, when I feel like my body's shutting down and I just need to lay down because of my fibromyalgia, because of the adenomyosis that I have, I tend to feel shame and guilt because I think of that child where I was the one that had to, do for myself and worry about things I should have never had to worry about at that age. It causes me as the adult to feel like, oh, look what you're doing to your family. Look what you're doing. You remember how it felt. And so God's really challenged me, and I am doing my best to work on that spirit of guilt. I have been praying, and every time that thought comes to my mind, I tell myself, I am worthy of this moment. I am worthy of healing. I am worthy of laying down if my body is sick. This is even in business. For so long, I had such a hard time asking people to pay me for services and things like that. And God is showing me that I am worthy of my time, my efforts, and I am worthy of that paycheck. So it just is so crazy how you can heal from so much in your childhood and you're like, oh, I did this, I did that, I'm good. And then something else pops up, and it's such a dark time for me. Addiction is so ugly and dark that it is the one thing that I have blocked off a lot of stuff I have shied away from. So you don't see me do as much with addiction because it's been that hard for me. But I'm going back to that little girl that felt guilty, and I am letting her off the hook. I am actually revisiting that little girl and saying, it's okay. It's okay. You shouldn't have to take this burden. You are too young. You should have been a child. And it has been such freedom for me. I feel like my self-worth is growing. It's just God's doing amazing things. And I just wanted to share because maybe you deal with guilt. I know as moms, it is constant we deal with guilt. But unless you are doing something that is wrong, you don't have a reason to feel guilty. That is not from God. Satan wants to make you feel, even if you think you're doing something right, by worrying about everybody else first. He twists and manipulates, and suddenly that guilt could seem like a good thing when reality is, it is eating you up inside. I pray today that if you are dealing with this like I have, that you also seek God and start to really heal from that. And I pray we can do this together.